Hello, my fellow YouTubers. This is Roy back again. Well, I'm going to say this is an Ed Leedskalnin video. Threw myself back into Ed, and this time I treated it like a classroom and took his magnetic current book, and this time I made a bunch of notes, and finally it all makes sense. But I had to excite my soul, my spirit, with a little of Tesla. So let's go ahead and fire up a little here, and we'll talk about a couple things, all right? So let's go ahead and coffee. It's like 7 in the morning. Pull that out. I'm going to pull that out. So we got some darkness. Pardon my darkness, guys. All right, we got some light bulbs lighting up. A little arcing going on there. So I had to, don't want to blow my transformer. Calm that beast down. One thing I could show you over here is that I got a little LED, and it's lit up in my hand with the spark gap real low, and I can even walk out here and it's still lit. You can see it more in the dark. So let's talk about a couple things. I guess I can turn that off. Still on, I can hear it. Let's go over to my Ed Leedskalnin wheels. Yeah. So, what is going on over here? That's crazy. So you're getting all this energy coming to the top load and expanding out in air, which is the hardest thing for it to do. And Ed says, got some good notes over here on Mr. Skallin. Let's go over here. All right, so one thing I learned on getting into Ed's magnetic current is that the pipe that he's talking about there, I found to be very important, because what he's talking about there is that we're using the pipe almost like a big inductor. And by putting a coil on the inside of it and using two different separate jars on top, we're able to, one thing I want to read to you guys here is, so right here it says, if you start the north and south pole individual magnets in a orbit, they will never stop. So the goal here is to create this orbit. Now, one thing Ed had mentioned also, um, he has mentioned with the PMH, that if you wanted a south for a coil, if you wanted the south to be coming towards you, you would put a south pole in the start here, and then the negative on the other side, and that would create that. And I find that to be interesting, because really the energy that we're talking about, South Pole, North Pole, is really one particular energy we're talking about. It's the direction that it takes. So right now we have a electromagnet. I guess I can't even do this with one hand. How am I going to do this? Yeah, so it won't stick here. And basically, if I touch this other end, I don't know if I can do that. Oh yeah. So there's the energy. So we put we ran energy in there. And what happens is when we ran the energy in there, we ran the south over here, the north on that side. We, in the wire itself, not lengthwise to the wire, but sideways to the wire, we created an electromagnetic field. So the wire itself became the magnet here. The metal itself, is where the circulation of the energy right now is running. So right now what we have is we have uh, South Pole, North Pole. We got South Pole energy coming out from itself, running around, coming back in, running around and doing it over and over and over. Now while it's doing that, now the energy in the wire cannot move through the wire. So it has like these little square uh, alignments in the wire. So right now, the way it's set up is that the South Pole is facing west and the North Pole is facing east. And if we were to pull this bar off, we would put a shock wave of energy back into the coil, and that's what the metal's job to do, is to push the energy through the coil wire. So right now the magnet is the metal, the coil wire is not the magnet. When we go to pull this off, we're going to release some energy back into the wire. It aligns the wire to slant, and as the wire slants, it'll start to run through the wire, and that's where the energy would come out the back side to that. It's pretty cool stuff. So if you start looking into Ed's wheel here, you start to look at his picture and start to look at the components around him. Now I can understand why he's using all this iron. Okay, the iron there is working with, in conjunction, the grounding pipe, and the grounding pipe is the inductor that when you start and stop the alternating process, so when you go to turn this, you are starting the alternating process. So if we had a box here that was a pickup coil, when this south pole is approaching, let's call it right here. So when this is approaching this coil, the field is now present into the iron and is attracted to the iron. And when you keep going and it comes to a point to where it can't charge anymore, it'll now start to recede, and that's where the alarm